O thou unseen friend, O desire of all in this world and the world to come, O thou compassionate beloved, these helpless souls are captivated by thy love, and these feeble ones seek shelter at thy threshold. Every night they sigh and moan in their remoteness from thee, and every morn they lament and weep by reason of the onslaught of the people of malice. They are afflicted at every moment with a fresh anguish, and are sore tried at each breath by the tyranny of every wicked oppressor. Praise be to thee, that notwithstanding this, they are ablaze as a temple of fire, and shine resplendent as the sun and the moon. They stand tall, like upraised banners, in the cause of God, and hasten, like valiant horsemen, into the arena. They have bloomed like sweet blossoms, and are filled with joy like the laughing rose. Wherefore, O thou loving provider, graciously assist these holy souls by thy heavenly grace, which is vouchsafed from thy kingdom, and grant that these sanctified beings may manifest the signs of the Most High. Thou art the all-bountiful, the pitiful, the all-merciful, the compassionate. Abdul-Baha. O you of Western nations, be kind to those who come from the Eastern world to sojourn among you. Forget your conventionality when you speak with them. Rather, let your manner be sympathetic. Let it be seen that you are filled with universal love. When you meet a Persian or any other stranger, speak to him as to a friend. If he seems to be lonely, try to help him. Give him of your willing service. If he be sad, console him. If poor, succor him. If oppressed, rescue him. If in misery, comfort him. In so doing, you will manifest that not in words only, but in deed and in truth, you think of all men as your brothers. Abdul-Baha. There is one God. Mankind is one. The foundations of religion are one. Abdul-Baha.
Thank you. So today we're really happy to have the Our Story is One dedication tour with Luke Slott and Jasmine. On June 18th, 2023, the Bahá'í International Community launched the Our Story is One campaign, a global artistic movement marking the 40th anniversary of the execution of 10 Baha'i women, all hanged in a single night in Shiraz, Iran in 1983. The Our Story is One campaign seeks to create worldwide solidarity with all people in Iran, particularly women, who continue to struggle for freedom and equality today. Inspired by this campaign, Irish singer-songwriter Luke Slott and Brazilian-American artist and vocalist Jasmine launched the Our Story is One dedication tour. Over the past year, Luke and Jasmine have taken their moving musical program to over 50 cities in 13 different countries, offering live audiences across Europe and North America a transportive musical experience of songs, memories, and stories of heroic Iranian women and men who throughout history have stood up for freedom. After spending much of the past year on the road, Luke and Jasmine will join us live from AP Studios Dublin to present a special studio production of their program. The Our Story is One dedication tour is inspired by the 10 Baha'i women of Shiraz and is dedicated to the people of Iran.
Thank you, Peymane, and thank you all for tuning in, whether you're listening live or later. It's wonderful to be connected with you all. And first of all, Jasmine and I would like to express our thanks to the Parhami family and the Baha'i Faith Modern Perspectives YouTube channel for inviting us to do this presentation. As Peymane mentioned, Jasmine and I have been collaborating over this past year on this Our Story is One dedication tour, which is inspired by the Our Story is One campaign, which was launched just over a year ago in honor of these 10 Iranian women who were executed in 1983 simply for being Baha'is in Iran. And Jasmine and I were very inspired by this campaign, which really seeks to express solidarity with all people in Iran today who are still struggling and striving for basic freedoms such as freedom of belief and freedom of expression. And so we've been on tour for most of the past year, doing this presentation in various countries. And it's such an honor to be invited to do it on the Baha'i Faith Modern Perspectives YouTube channel, and a special treat to do it as a live studio production here at AP Studios in Dublin. And we would like to both express our thanks to Antimo for producing this session from here in Dublin. And we know we're always in good hands with Antimo. So this is a major collaborative event between many people, to which we are all very grateful. And this presentation that we're going to do today, and which we've been doing on the road for the past year, is really intended as a musical journey. And it's a journey that lasts about an hour and 15 minutes, and it consists of songs and stories. And we're going to gradually make our way towards the story of these 10 women who have inspired this Our Story is One campaign and all the artistic initiatives that have blossomed out of it, but who have really been inspiring people for the last 41 years. And so we'd like to begin with a song to set the tone for this journey. We'd like to begin with a song on the theme of hope. This is a song about having the courage to believe in a vision of a better future. And these 10 women essentially gave their lives for the sake of a better future for the whole world. And so we'd like to dedicate this first song to all those people in Iran today, the women, the artists, our fellow musicians, the educators, the free thinkers, who are still hoping and striving for a better future for their country and for the world, even if the world sometimes looks like a hopeless wasteland. I made you a promise, and I don't want to break it, but you know I found it hard to believe that we had what it takes. And though I may be wrong in all my speculations, I can still recall the pain when we stood with our souls stark naked. You made me a promise, and it's not like you to fake it, but you know I found it hard to conceive the time it would take. And you may prove me wrong with all your new creations. Yeah, I can still recall your face when you told me one day we'll make it. And this wasteland will blossom like heaven, and all the colors we've painted here will merge into one. And there will be no religion as we know it today. No more endless division, just love, hope, and faith in the wasteland. In the wasteland, in the wasteland. I saw you down at the landfill with the photographs you sold, and you loved them like a child, though your face was getting old. And though all we have is a dust heap, we'll make it beautiful yet. And when the breeze of spring comes back, this cold winter we'll forget. And this wasteland will blossom like heaven. And all the colors we've painted here will merge into one. And there will be no decision that we won't all make as one. No more senseless collision when these fickle wars are done. No, there will be no division of sex, color, class, or creed. Just one world to belong to, and one color blood to bleed. In the wasteland, in the wasteland, in the wasteland. Okay, so as we embark on this musical journey, something that's very important to understand and to keep in mind throughout this journey is that the fact that these 10 women were put to death for their beliefs in the context of an outstandingly rich heritage of freedom of belief. And so with this in mind, as a point of departure for our journey, I wanted to share with you a little bit about an amazing ancient treasure that I once saw on display in the British Museum in London. And this is, in fact, one of the most significant artifacts preserved from the ancient world. And if you ever go to the British Museum in London, you'll see this ancient treasure. And as a matter of fact, I have here a replica of this treasure. This is the Shiraz cylinder, and it's on display in London today. And as you can see, it is a stone cylindrical tablet, and all around this tablet, engraved into the stone, is an inscription. And this inscription has been described by historians in terms of its effect on society as the world's first charter of human rights. And it was created by an Iranian whose name was Cyrus the Great, or as Iranians know him in their own language, Kourosh. Kourosh, Cyrus the Great, was the founder of the ancient Persian Empire, the precursor to what we know today as Iran. And to this day, Cyrus the Great is regarded by people of many different nations and cultures around the world as one of the most noble kings who ever lived, because of the fact that he created an empire that was explicitly built on the principle of freedom of belief and the protection of individual rights. This charter protected the rights of all people under Cyrus to practice their religion in safety, to express their beliefs, and to preserve their own languages and cultures. So long before the Geneva Conventions and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, an ancient Iranian king proclaimed across his empire the world's first charter of human rights. And the heritage of Cyrus the Great has been described as a heritage of human understanding, of tolerance, of courage, of compassion, and above all, of human liberty. So, a very beautiful, admirable heritage. Well, by the 1970s, over 2,500 years had passed since Cyrus had founded his empire, and Persia, or Iran as we know it today, had gone through this incredibly dynamic history, during which this extraordinarily rich legacy of art and architecture and science and literature had blossomed out of Iran, and that legacy actually continues to exert a very profound influence on the wider world today. In fact, I recently read that the number one best-selling author in the United States is in fact the English translations of an Iranian poet. His name is Rumi. Well, also by the 1970s, the people of Iran had watched as many of their leaders throughout the ages had, to some degree or another, drifted from the example of Cyrus, sometimes into periods of corruption and sometimes even moments of tyranny. And so in 1978 and 1979, certain groups of people in Iran decided that they no longer wanted the Persian monarchy. And these groups of people rose up in a revolution against the Shah, the king of Iran. But the ultimate result of this revolution was not what most Iranian people wanted, because when the Shah finally accepted defeat, there appeared in Iran a power vacuum like never before. And this power vacuum was ruthlessly filled by extremists who claimed that they possessed divine authority to rule over the people. And among these new leaders, it seemed as if the very memory of their ancestor Cyrus had simply vanished from their minds, from their pulpits. They proclaimed that the mere notion of human rights was a Western concept, incompatible with their society. And so from 1979 onwards, the people of Iran suddenly found themselves deprived of so many of the freedoms that they had enjoyed and the progress that they had made and the heritage that they had established. Artists, musicians like ourselves, writers, journalists, educators were arrested en masse and thrown in prison. Women as a group comprising half the population were placed under extreme restriction solely for being women. And there's a very poignant short little poem by the Iranian poet Halu, which describes this strange reversal of fortunes that happened to the Iranian people in 1979. And Jasmine is going to share this poem with us.
February 1979. Amidst the chaos of the revolution, a prisoner wrote on the wall in Evin prison, "People, be aware. Very soon the Ayatollahs will topple the monarchy and prisons will turn into universities." Many years passed and I kept asking myself, what about all those nice promises? When is it going to come true? Then I landed in prison and I saw with my own eyes students and scholars everywhere. That's how the prisons turned into universities.
So we'd like to dedicate the next song to all those heroes in Iran today who have not forgotten their ancestor Cyrus and who continue, often at great danger to their own lives, to stand up for freedom in Iran. This is dedicated to the great Iranian lawyer and journalist Nasrin Sotoudeh, and to the Nobel Peace Prize winning defender of human rights, Shirin Ebadi. And also to Narges Mohammadi, who you may have heard just last year was also awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for her work defending human rights in Iran, and who remains in prison today. This is called In the Shade of Paradise. There is a prison cell in old Tehran, and within a woman there, a child grows strong. There is a prison of poems unknown in old Shiraz, and from its invisible floors of stone, a warning rose. When the towers in the sky fall and the river changes course, and the powers up on high give in to the call, you will hear the people cry. Where did all the lovers run to? When did all the heroes die? Well, didn't you look behind these walls? They live on a plain of sacrifice. There is a rose garden in Esfahan, and in it the nightingales sing their midnight song. When the towers in the sky fall and the ocean pulls its tide, and the powers up on high give in to the call, you will hear the people sigh. Where did all the lovers run to? When did all the heroes die? Well, didn't you look behind these walls? They live on a plain of sacrifice. What did all the mothers come to? Where do all the sisters hide? Well, didn't you look behind these veils? They live in a sea of tearful eyes. Where did all the lovers run to? When did all the heroes die? Didn't you look behind these walls? They live in the shade of paradise. 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 There is a prison cell in old Tehran. And so in 1979, the people of Iran entered a new chapter in their history. And looking back over the past 45 years, this chapter has been one of great upheavals and discontent, and for many Iranians, a chapter of great injustices. Apart from restricting the freedoms of artists, musicians, writers, women, educators, the new leaders immediately began clamping down on Iran's religious minorities, Iranian Christians and Jews, Zoroastrians, Muslims who disagreed with the new government were all targeted and harassed, often being made the objects of brutal atrocities. But among all these groups that were targeted, there was one group towards which the new leaders became particularly vicious, and this was in fact Iran's largest religious minority, the Bahá'í community. And in this particular presentation, we're not going to go into detail about what the Bahá'í Faith is. There are so many wonderful videos on the Bahá'í Faith Modern Perspectives YouTube channel that you can explore in your own time. But I just wanted to share with you a short saying of Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Bahá'í Faith, who was himself an Iranian. He said that it is better to be killed than to kill. And I think this little saying speaks volumes about the way in which the Bahá'í community of Iran have responded to the cruelty that they have received. Because after the revolution of 1979, as the new government gained more and more power, Baha'is all over Iran were arrested and often imprisoned solely on the basis of the personal beliefs they held in their hearts. Often their family homes were confiscated or simply set on fire. Even their sacred places and cemeteries were demolished and desecrated. New laws were enacted to officially dismiss Baha'is from their jobs and expel their children from schools and universities all across the country. But despite the cruelty that they have received, the response of the Baha'is in Iran to this government-sanctioned persecution has been noted on the international level for its unique character. And in fact, the response of the Baha'is to this persecution in Iran has been so unusual that it has been studied by academics and government institutions around the world, and it has even been given a special name, constructive resilience. And I love this little phrase because it speaks of a kind of a deep inner empowerment to focus on building, on constructing something good, even in the face of great difficulty and great cruelty. And one of the most interesting examples of this constructive resilience is the way in which the Baha'is in Iran have responded to the denial of their right to education. And it's actually an amazingly inspiring story. And it goes something like this. After the revolution of 1979, as more and more Baha'is were fired from their jobs and were expelled from schools and universities, the young people in that community were growing up without any prospect of a future, without any possibility of pursuing an education or developing a career, because there was this stranglehold on the intellectual development of an entire community. And so, in response to this situation, certain teachers and professors, many of whom had lost their own jobs, began to offer secret university-level classes in the homes of these young people. And these teachers began to smuggle school textbooks into these family homes, and they would sit with these young people around the kitchen table, and they would deliver to them university-level courses in economics and law and music and medicine and the sciences and any educational field you could imagine. And these young people fully understood that at the end of all these studies and classes, they would never sit an official exam. They would never gain a qualification, and they would never get a job. And yet they kept coming back simply for the love of learning and the love of the enrichment of the human mind. And these secret classes started popping up in family homes all over Iran, and this network of teachers and students became, for all intents and purposes, a kind of underground university, spread throughout the entire country, fully functioning as an educational institution, and yet completely invisible. And it became known as the BIHE, the Bahá'í Institute of Higher Education. Well, eventually, the authorities in Iran found out about the BIHE, and they immediately launched a systematic campaign to destroy it. Family homes were raided, teachers were thrown in prison, textbooks were confiscated, and every effort was made to shut down the BIHE. But by the time that the authorities in Iran found out about it, it was already too late, because so had the rest of the world. And the BIHE was actually being recognized on the international academic scene for its outstanding levels of higher education. And as of today, 110 universities around the world have actually granted scholarships to students from the BIHE and have brought them from Iran to their campuses to further their studies and to develop their careers. And as we've been on tour, traveling through various countries, Jasmine and I have had the great privilege of meeting people, meeting students who began their studies in secrecy in Iran and who are now living flourishing lives and are using their talents to contribute to the countries in which they now live. And so we would like to dedicate this next song to the teachers and the students of the BIHE for their remarkable example of constructive resilience. Come down and walk these roads around the city of Tehran, where 7 candles burn. Follow me, all you who claim to be possessed of charity, down to the crimson sea. 100,000 veils Did you hear the fate of those who educate, who even in the grave find no respite from hate? Have you seen the youth who gave their lives for truth? That girl who kissed the noose and welcomed all abuse. 100,000 sons have fallen to earth with blasts that block the ears from hearing the new song. 100,000 veils have covered the truth. How many mothers' cries are lost in the tumult? There is no war to fight. You have no sacred right, no holy book to cite to make these wrongs seem right. Does it so offend to want this world to mend, to walk in hope to the end, and see each man a friend? Come down and walk these roads around the cities of Iran, which boast so much to men. So I'm sure that many of you are aware of the woman life freedom movement, which erupted into the global spotlight just about 2 years ago after the death of a young woman in Iran named Jina Mahsa Amini, who died while in custody after she had been arrested and assaulted for wearing her headscarf incorrectly. And Jina Mahsa Amini's death sparked this nationwide movement, which quickly became a global movement for women's freedom to choose how they wish to live. And something that is so interesting about this woman life freedom movement in Iran is the fact that this whole cause for women's freedom in Iran actually stretches further back into Iranian history than many people today realize. And these very brave women who today are fighting for basic rights, for basic freedoms, such as the freedom to choose how they wish to dress, have in their own Iranian heritage an extraordinary predecessor, a remarkable Iranian woman who lived in the 19th century and whose name was Tahereh, which means the pure one. And Tahereh was a phenomenon of 19th century Iranian society. She was a gifted poet. She was a hugely accomplished scholar and theologian, an incredibly powerful public speaker and educator. And she was also one of the leading figures in the very early days of the Baha'i faith in Iran. And today, Tahereh is regarded by many people around the world, both men and women, as one of the most outstandingly impactful women in the history of the world. And she is looked to as an example of courage and of commitment to the cause for women's nobility and dignity and autonomy. And so I've written a song in tribute to this woman, Tahereh. But before we get to the song, Jasmine and I would like to share with you a little story about Tahereh, and hopefully by the time we get to the song, we'll all feel like we know her a little better. So for this part of our journey, we need to travel back in time a little bit. So I'd like to invite you all to use your imagination. And in our mind's eye, we're going to travel 176 years back in time to the year 1848, which was a peculiar year in the history books. It was a year that witnessed this sudden, cascading chain of social movements in different parts of the world, movements of people rising up and crying out for change and crying out for justice and fairness in their societies. And this year went down in history as the springtime of the people, 1848. But in the midst of that springtime of the people, as all these revolutionary movements were sweeping across large swaths of the world, a quieter yet equally impactful event took place in a garden in the Iranian countryside. This was a gathering of less than 100 people who had come together to discuss the new teachings of the Baha'i faith. And an incident occurred at this gathering that shook Iranian society to its core. An incident which, the implications of which continue to reverberate through Iranian society today. And at the center of this incident was this woman, Tahereh. And just to understand how serious this incident was, it's important to know that Tahereh, as was the custom of her time, and just like all the women in her society, had lived her day-to-day life with a veil covering her face at all times in public. And this was a social custom that was so ingrained in the fabric of 19th century Persian society that the mere notion of ever seeing a woman's face in public was just completely unthinkable. It just wasn't, it just didn't happen. Well, in the year 1848, at this gathering, in this garden in the Iranian countryside, Tahereh, like a bolt of lightning striking at the very root of Iranian society, appeared before the people, unveiled. And this act of defiance to the social norms and the expectations of women of her time was so incomprehensibly scandalous to the people at that gathering. It was as if they were witnessing the very fabric of their society unraveling before their eyes. This act sent a shockwave through that gathering and through Iranian society, which continues to reverberate today. And there's an eyewitness account of this incident, which was recorded by a man who was present at that gathering. And Jasmine is going to share this account with us now.
Suddenly, the figure of Tahereh, adorned and unveiled, appeared before the eyes of the assembled companions. Consternation immediately seized the entire gathering. All stood aghast before this sudden and most unexpected apparition. To behold her face unveiled was to them inconceivable. Even to gaze at her shadow was a thing which they deemed improper. Quietly, silently, and with the utmost dignity, Tahereh stepped forward, her unruffled serenity sharply contrasted with the affrighted countenances of those who were gazing upon her face. Fear, anger, and bewilderment stirred the depths of their souls. This day is the day of festivity and universal rejoicing, she announced. The day on which the fetters of the past are burst asunder. I am the blast of the trumpet. I am the call of the bugle.
So Tahereh was like this comet that just blazed across the skies of 19th century Iranian society, and in many ways set a standard of courage for the women of Iran today, who are carrying forward her torch and her legacy. In fact, in response to one of the many death threats that she received in her life, Tahereh once famously proclaimed, "You can kill me as soon as you like, but you cannot stop the emancipation of women." Well, so brightly did this comet blaze that eventually the authorities of her time caught up with her. And in the year 1852, Tahereh was captured by military officers who strangled her to death and threw her body down a well and covered it with stones and rubble, hoping that she would be forgotten forever. But she was not forgotten. And we would like to now share this song inspired by the life and legacy of Tahereh.
May future generations be enabled to present a worthy account of a life which our contemporaries have failed adequately to recognize. May future historians perceive the full measure of her influence and record the unique services this great woman has rendered to her land and its people. May the followers of the faith which she served so well strive to follow her example, recount her deeds, collect her writings, unfold the secret of her talents, and establish her for all time in the memory and affections of the peoples and kindreds of the earth.
Close all your books and enter this school. I'll show you the secret of a new golden rule. Lay down your letters and run to the field. Your sword in this battle is the tongue that you wield. Oh, Tahereh, Tahereh, you were the eye that saw far away, far away. You took my breath and my heart away on the day when the heavens did roar and the earth cried out for more. You were the moon in the cold winter sky, the rays of your mind, the solace of my eye. And you were the blast to raise up the dead, the sound of your voice ever ringing in my head. Oh, Tahereh, Tahereh, you were the eye that saw far away, far away. You tore the veil from my heart away on the day when the oceans did boil and the sun kissed the soil. Chase every demon, expose every lie. Welcome the day of a great sober sigh. Put on your dress for the wedding once more, and cast me a smile as you pass through the door. Oh, Tahiri, Tahiri, you are the wing for this broken, lost bird, the one lonely letter that makes well the word. So Godspeed the day when your trumpet blast will be heard, and lo, the dead will rise. The ones who sowed this veil of lies will fall away before your face. Tahiri, Tahiri, where do you lie? Beneath stones and rubble, or in the glistening of my eye? Tahiri, Tahiri, where do you lie? Are you not the object of every man's sigh? So we would like to now draw our attention to these 10 remarkable women who have inspired this Our Story is One campaign, and whose sacrifice and whose vision of a better future has been inspiring people for the last 41 years. And at this moment, I would just like to take a moment to introduce each of them by name. So, Antimo, if you could put up the slides, that would be great. So this is Ezzat, first of all, the eldest of the 10, pictured here with her family. Nusrat, pictured here with her son. This is Tahiri, named after the great Tahiri of the 19th century, of course. Tahiri was a nurse, and she's pictured here on her wedding day with her husband Jamshid, who actually also suffered the same fate. Zarin. Zarin was a student of English literature and a very gifted poet and writer. Mashid. Mashid had been a student of physics and translation. So she was both a scientist and a linguist. This is Akhtar. Akhtar was also a nurse who worked very devotedly in the hospitals in Iran. Shaheen, known as Shirin Dalvand. Shirin had been a student of sociology, and interestingly, Shirin wrote a college paper on the treatment of drug addiction in Iran after the trauma of the 1979 revolution. And this college paper was recognized for having such brilliant insights that it eventually found its way all the way to England, where it was published by Sheffield University. And her paper has actually been used by teachers in teaching their classes. So a very brilliant mind. Simin. Simin had worked in agriculture, but like many of her fellow Baha'is in Iran, she had been fired from her job after the revolution. This is Roya. Roya had been studying to become a vet, but also, like many of her fellow students, she was expelled from university. And finally, Mona, who was the youngest of the 10 and was just a high school student. So these women were people like us. They were people who were living their lives and looking forward to their futures, dreaming their dreams. One of them was a mother in her 40s, that's Nusrat. Another was a mother in her 50s, that's Ezzat. Another was Ezzat's 23-year-old daughter, Roya. Mother and daughter were together. Many of these women had been college students. As I mentioned, several of them were nurses. And they were very devoted to serving humanity and serving the society of their country, which they loved deeply. And in 1982 and 1983, these 10 women were arrested and were charged with a long list of crimes. One of their crimes was the crime of teaching Bahá'í children's classes, something like Sunday school, where children in a neighborhood will come together and learn stories and say prayers together and play games and sing songs together and learn about things like good character and treating people fairly and being honest and kind. And these children's classes are just a normal activity that Baha'i communities all over the world offer as a service to their local neighborhoods and societies for children of any background to have a nurturing, wholesome, safe environment in which to grow. But in Iran, these children's classes were a crime. The younger women among the 10 were also charged with the crime of simply being unmarried. This too was considered a punishable crime for a young woman. But at the top of this list was the greatest crime of which they were guilty, and that was the crime of simply believing in their hearts in the Baha'i faith. And for this crime, these women were imprisoned for months on end, sometimes being subjected to periods of solitary confinement, and at times even physical torture. At times, these women were chained face down on wooden tables and were whipped on their backs and on the soles of their feet, sometimes 100 lashings at a time with a wire cable. And throughout all of these months of abuse, these women were repeatedly asked to renounce their personal beliefs. Again and again, they were asked and asked and asked. And again, all 10 women refused and refused and refused. Until finally, on June 18th, 1983, the orders came down to bring their imprisonment to an end. And Jasmine is going to share with us some eyewitness accounts of that day.
It was late afternoon on 18 June when the prison visit was over. Shortly afterwards, the guards called the 10 women and ordered them to board a bus. They were Mona, Roya and her mother Ezat, Shirin, Zareen, Mahshid, Simin, Akhtar, Tahire, and Nusrat. The bus driver who transferred them from Adilabad to the execution site was greatly affected by the bravery and strength of the women, and he recalled that moment as follows. I thought they were going to be released until we came up to the gate for the security check. That was where we found out that the ladies were going to be executed. All the way there, they were chanting. They were all cheerful and proud. Another witness was one of the executioners who put the rope around their necks. He told the mother of one of the girls, "We gave them the opportunity to recant up to the last minute. First, we hanged the older women, and then it was the turn of the young girls, one by one in front of the rest. The youngest was last. We thought they would be so frightened that they would recant. We said to them, 'Just say once that you are not a Baha'i and we will let you go.' But none of them did."
So for the next song, Jasmine and I would like to sing a short verse which comes from the writings of Baha'u'llah, and we're just going to sing a musical arrangement of this verse. And this is a relatively well-known verse from Baha'u'llah's writings, and I have no doubt that these women would have known this verse, probably by heart. And I can imagine that these words were probably a great source of inner strength and fortitude and patience and comfort to them, and also to their families as they went through this ordeal. And so the song is called "The Sign of Love." And as I play the opening chords, Jasmine is going to read some memories from some members of the families of these women.
From Zareen's mother. They let me go into the morgue. I never thought I would be able to carry on living after that moment. What I saw in that room and what I went through that day are indescribable. When I went in, oh my God, I saw 10 angels sleeping motionless next to each other. I knew all of them. I had been in the same prison with them. They were mother and daughter, Ezat and Roya, lying there. What strength kept me breathing and on my feet, I don't know. I visited all 10 angels. I found Zareen, embraced her cold body, and put my cheek against her delicate and cold face. I kissed the mark of the rope on her beloved neck on behalf of all her family. Her face looked natural and tranquil. From Mona's sister, the pain I felt that day was the same as when I heard the news of my father's martyrdom. I thought I would go mad. The prospect was so painful that psychologically I refused to accept it. Instead, I imagined the day when she would return home, her footsteps, her laughter, her lovely voice. I imagined embracing and kissing my beautiful sister. I wanted to share the pain of our father's martyrdom with her, and I needed to talk to her about the painful days when they were all in prison. I wanted her to share with me the suffering she had gone through. I had plans for us to be together and support our mother. So many thoughts rushed through my head in the moment when I heard the tragic news. I hoped that someone would come in and say it wasn't true. I was still kneeling beside Mona. It was a bitter experience seeing my sister for the last time without a glass partition to separate us. I kissed her cold cheek and said goodbye to her. With all my heart, I wished she would open her eyes and let me see her smile one last time. But I knew she was observing us from above with an eternal smile, and one teardrop would break her heart. Thus, my beautiful Mona, I smile for the love you had for Baha'u'llah and humankind. May the world discover why you sacrificed your life.
O Son of Man, for everything there is a sign, the sign of love is fortitude.
The sign of love is patience.
The sign of love is fortitude.
The sign of love is patient.
Under my decree,
Under my trial,
under my decree,
under my trials,
O Son of Man,
O Son of Man,
So some of you may have noticed in one of the earlier songs, Jasmine and I sang a lyric, we sang a line that referred to a girl. It went, "That girl who kissed the noose and welcomed all abuse." Well, that girl, and Atmo, if you could go back to slide number 10, that girl was Mona. Mona Mahmoud Nejad, as I mentioned earlier, was the youngest of the 10 women. She was just 17 years old when she was hanged, simply for being a Baha'i. And you can kind of get a sense from these pictures that Mona was this vibrant, joyful, life-loving girl who played guitar and loved dancing and goofing around. She obviously loved her family very much. You can see here her father sitting beside her, just beaming with pride. Mona was a very dedicated teacher of these children's classes that I mentioned earlier. Outside of school and her homework, Mona used to devote a lot of spare time to nurturing children in her neighborhood. Because she knew, even at a young age, she knew that the future of humanity depends on the education of children and the nurturing of the next generation. And even at the age of 17, she got this. And she got it so deeply that she was dedicating and devoting so much of her time to educating children and being there for them and being a guide and a mentor for them. And even when it became dangerous for her to do this, she continued with utter commitment to teach these children's classes and be there for the young people around her. And you know, as Jasmine and I have been, like so many people, have been learning the story of these women over the past year through this Our Story is One campaign, we really have just been completely just bowled over by the courage of these 10 women. But the courage of 17-year-old Mona is something truly remarkable, because on the night of their execution, on June 18th, 1983, when the 10 women were taken from their prison cell to the public square of their city, Shiraz, to be hanged one after the other in front of each other, 17-year-old Mona insisted on going last, because she knew how painful it would be for her friends to have to stand and watch a 17-year-old girl be killed in front of them. And she wanted to spare them that trauma. And she wanted to stand and be a support to them in their final moments. And so she insisted on going last. But the maturity, the profound maturity of Mona in making this decision is almost staggering, because this decision meant that not only did Mona herself have to stand and watch as her 9 friends were hanged in front of her, but it also meant that when her turn came, she had no friend left to stand and be a support to her. No one to look into her eyes one last time with love. Or no one to just whisper a word of support. She had to go to the executioner completely alone. And when the executioner put the rope around her neck, Mona stood up tall and raised her head high, and she kissed the noose. And Jasmine is going to share with us now a memory from Mona's mother about one of the last conversations that they had.
She looked into my eyes and said, "Mama, I know I will be killed. I just want to tell you what I am planning to do. If you don't let me tell you now, you will lose this chance forever, and then you will be sorry that you didn't let me talk. Now, do you want me to tell you or not?" Haltingly, I agreed. "Okay, tell me." Mona held my elbow and started to walk. "You know, Mama, the place where they are going to hang us is probably going to be higher than the ground, so they can put the rope around our necks. I will first get permission to kiss the hands of whoever puts the rope around my neck. You know, Mama, I think they will definitely let me do that. Then I will kiss the rope I am to be hanged with. Then I will ask for their permission again and say this prayer." As she was standing in front of me, she closed her eyes, crossed her hands on her chest, and in a very spiritual manner, like a lover singing a song for her beloved, she chanted a prayer. Then she opened her eyes and said, "And then I will pray for the true happiness of all humankind, and I will say goodbye to this mortal life and leave to go to my adored one." I looked at her, but I couldn't see her. I heard her, but I couldn't comprehend what she was saying. On the one hand, my emotional attachment to her was frightening me. On the other hand, she had taken me to a beautiful spiritual world. 10 days later, she was killed.
So ever since I heard this story, I have been so struck by this final moment, this final act of Mona Mahmoud-Nejad's life. And I wondered, what did this mean? Why did she kiss the noose? And I wonder if perhaps in that moment, the noose represented her sacrifice. It represented everything that she was willing to give up for the sake of a better future for the world. It represented her commitment to her faith, to her principles, and like her ancestor Cyrus, it represented her unbreakable dedication to freedom of belief for all people. And so this next song is actually written from the point of view of the noose. And in this song, I am imagining that scene, that night, 18th of June, 1983. The women are taken from their prison cell. They're put on the bus and driven to the public square. And I imagine the executioners are there. Perhaps there are some authority figures there to oversee the event. And in the song, I'm imagining that of all the people who are present in this scene, the only being who can actually see the truth of these 10 women, the only one who actually sees their inner beauty, their goodness, their heart, is this little piece of rope, this noose. And the noose falls in love with these women, and it turns into a love song. And the noose considers it the greatest privilege to be so close to these 10 courageous women at this moment, and it cries out to them singing, "You told me that love is queen and freedom is life, and I held you so close to me, and I longed for nothing more than to die with you." So this song is called "To Die With You." And it's dedicated to Mona and Zareen and Roya and Shireen and Tahare and Mahshid and Nusrat and Ezzat and Akhtar and Simeon. I was there when the heavens bowed their heads and the earth stood forth with her eyes awash with red. I touched your hair in a moment out of time. How could I ask for more? How could I dare demand a sign? I saw you there on the coldest prison mile. How did you stay so fair? How did you find the grace to smile? I kissed your hair while the moon was cleft in two. I had no need for prayer. Every thread of my soul was tied to you. We danced in 1,000 worlds 'neath the brilliant blue sky, and the rays of the sun paled before the gleam in your eye. You told me that love is queen and that freedom is life, and I held you so close to me, and I longed for nothing more than to die with you. I was there when a million trumpets blew. All but the dead could hear. All the rivers of life returned to you. I touched your lips in a moment of despair. Your breath was a rose-scented breeze through the dead desert air. We danced in 1,000 worlds 'neath the brilliant blue sky. All the wealth of the world was dust before the gleam in your eye. You told me that love is queen and that freedom is life. Then you whispered so close to me, and I longed for nothing. We danced in 1,000 worlds 'neath the star-sprinkled sky, and the face of the moon paled before the light in your eye. You told me that love is queen and that freedom is life, and you came so close to me, and I longed for nothing more than to die with you. To die with you. Mona, Zareen, Roya, Shireen, Tahare, Mahshid, Nusrat, Ezzat, Akhtar, Simeon, Mona, Zareen, Roya, Shireen, Tahare, Mahshid, Nusrat, Ezzat, Akhtar, Simeon, Mona, Zareen. Okay, so this now brings us to the end of our musical journey. And over this past year, as Jasmine and I have been on tour with this program, we always wanted to offer something to the audience at the end of the journey. And so we decided that we would offer a question to the audience, and we offer that same question to you. So something that we've realized is very important about this story is the fact that outwardly, this is a tragic story about these 10 women whose lives were stolen from them. But inwardly, it is a story of extraordinary courage and inner strength. And it's something that we can all, I think it's a story that we can all draw strength and courage and inspiration from in our own lives. And so the question that we would like to offer you is the following. And I'm sure everyone will have a unique response to this question, but I hope it gives you some food for thought. The question is, what do these 10 women inspire me to do? You know, these were women who really, truly believed this little phrase, our story is one. And they were living that belief, striving to be at one with all humanity and to truly live seeing humanity as one family. And they were doing this through dedicating themselves to the education of children, to being of service to society and humanity as a whole. And so we hope this question gives you some food for thought at the end of this journey. And to close, I would like to sing a song, a short song, in the Irish ballad style, with no guitar, just voice. And this song is on the theme of human solidarity. It's simply about wishing each other well and goodwill towards all mankind. It's called Song for My Brother, and it is inspired by what these women believed in and the vision of a better future that they gave their lives for. Oh, brother, well, I wish you on your journey homeward. Oh, may you treasure every step along the way. So I will see you where the river meets the ocean, underneath the shelter of the greatest name. Oh, may your heart and soul ascend unto the kingdom. Peace be upon you and upon your family. And may the gentle winds of heaven's revelation breathe upon you breezes of eternity. Oh, sister, we are but the drops of one great ocean. Oh, we are leaves upon the branches of one tree. One heart between us, and between us only one soul, to sing aloud the sweetest songs of unity. So from Jasmine and myself, we thank you greatly for joining us on this journey. We thank the Baha'i Faith Modern Perspectives YouTube channel for having us here. And we thank Antimo at AP Studios for producing this entire session live from Dublin. And we'll hand you back over to Peymane in Zoom.
Well, thank you so much, Luke and Jasmine, for that amazing performance. That was really amazing. So that recording will be uploaded on our YouTube channel if you didn't get a chance to watch it live fully, or you'd like to share it or re-listen to it. And we appreciate everyone kind of doing this new format with us today. Any issues anyone had with audio will be fixed in the recording. And I just really want to thank Luke and Jasmine again. That was really amazing. And so hopefully we'll see you all back here with us next Saturday. Our speaker next Saturday will be Tom Lysat, and he'll be doing a dramatic storytelling. So again, our talks are every Saturday at noon Eastern time, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Baha'i Faith Modern Perspectives, so you can get notified when we upload all of our talks and performances. So thank you, everyone, and we will see you next week. Bye.